Hello there, it's Uncle B coming at you with a short story. The name of the story is called The Lost Prince. The Lost Prince. Oh, before I get started, somebody asked me, well, why you call yourself Uncle B? Well, it's a short story, but a long story. I'm a twin. I had a twin. She was a girl, I was a boy. You know, we were fraternal twins. And when we were younger, since we was twins, they called us brother and sister. All through our life, they call us brother and sister. After a point in time, they stopped calling her sister and start calling her Sharon. We're Aaron and Sharon. But they kept calling me brother. So they called me that for so long, at so young, I thought my name was brother. And so my sisters had kids, and they just called me Uncle Brother. And they didn't think nothing wrong, but it didn't sound strange to them because that's what they always called me. So when they had friends come over and they introduced me as Uncle Brother. So it kind of confused their friends, but they explained it to them, but all is good. Anyway, the name of the story is called The Lost Prince. There was this palace with this king in it and all of his subjects. He had a son. The son was about 2 years old. And every day, maybe around noon, one of the servants would take the son down by the river, wash clothes, check out the scenery, you know what I mean? And just play with the son, take care of the son. Well, this particular day, a wind came up, a storm came up out of the blue. Blew the son that was in the basket into the river. And before the servant could get to the son, the river had took him down the river. And they thought the son was lost. As far as they know, the son was lost. They looked for him for days. They thought he had drowned. They found the basket, but not the son. Lo and behold, maybe a day later, this old couple was maybe a couple miles down the river, and they heard a baby cry. So they went and checked it out. The baby was kind of stuck between the water and a tree, right in the middle there, just stuck. Couldn't get out. Baby was 2 years old. So they saw the baby and they took the baby home. Figured it must be a blessing because they always wanted kids, but couldn't have any kids. So they took the baby home and thought about trying to find the parents, but they lived so far away, and they didn't hear of anybody looking for anyone. They stayed so far from the palace, they didn't get any updates or they didn't know what was going on. They're just in their own little world. So they start raising the little kid. Little kid, only thing he had was a little blanket wrapped around him that says LR on it. So they took the kid, the blanket, and they start raising the kid. Months went by, years went by, kids started getting older. He's about 5 years old now, and they just love the kid. The kid don't remember anything else. You just think, these are my parents. Well, the parents, they were kind of old, so they ended up passing away. The kid was about 7. They both had passed away, and the kid had went to an orphanage where they took care of orphan kids. So these couple adopted the kid, took care of the kid. They were kind of mean, they were kind of old and mean, and so they took the kid, and lo and behold, the kid grew up. Baby kid is now about 16, 17 years old. He had this friend that comes by often, and they hang out and they play. But his friend heard about the festivities that was going to be going on in the palace. Once a year, the king have a big festivities, big meal planning, big party, where he invite the servants and the surrounding people to come and eat and be merry, have fun, drink wine, eat food for free. The king did this in honor of his lost son. He started doing this a year after his son was lost, in honor of his son, so he would never forget his son. So the young man wasn't able to go, and they called his name Michael. His friend name was Bill. Michael wasn't able to go because his parents were kind of strict, wouldn't let him go, but Michael went. to the festivities, had fun. He ate, drank, and just before the night was up, the king came out to thank everyone for coming out and reminded them what the festivities was for. He always said, "It's just remind me of my lost son, and I just don't want to forget him. So thank you for coming." And someone said, "Well, what does your son look like?" He said, "Well, he was 2 years old, so it's hard to describe him now, but he was 2 years old. But he had this blanket that he loved and had RL on it. So, and then he also had a tattoo behind his ear, RL. And so that's how I would know it was him if I ever seen him, if he was alive or not. But I don't believe he was alive, else I would have heard something. But that's the description of my son. So the king thanked everyone for coming, and everybody dispersed to start going home. Well, Bill started going home, like, wow, that's sad. But he remembered that his buddy, when he was young, always carried this blanket around with him, and it had some initials on it. He don't remember what they were, but he remembered those initials, and so he didn't think nothing about it. So he finally get back. It's like an hour walk, and he goes and sees his friend, checks on him, see how he's doing. So all is good. His friend is in the barn clearing out the barn because his parents say he got to clean it out. A lot of old stuff, old things from his childhood. And so as he was going, he saw this chest, this old chest that he used to, that his parents had gave to him with some of his stuff. So he opened it up and started going through it. He saw his old blanket. He laid it down, set it out the way. His friend Bill saw it and looked at the blanket, and he saw RL on it. He said, "Wow, that's a nice little blanket, man. Where'd you get it?" He said, "My parents gave it to me. I just always had it." He said, "What do the initials stand for?" "I'm not sure, but always loved this blanket, but I kind of outgrew it." He said, "Wow, man. I went to the festivities, and the king said his son had a blanket that he loved and kept with him all the time. It had RL on it. And so I was just wondering, where'd you get that from?" And he showed me the symbols, and that blanket looked just like the symbols that the king was talking about. And Michael said, sounds good, coincidence. I don't know nothing about that. But his friend was really bothered. And he said, his son also had a tattoo behind his ear on the left side, inscribed or tattooed as RL. He said, "Would you mind if I look behind your ear?" He said, just a look. Michael said, "Man, stop playing around, man. I don't have no tattoo on my ear. I would have seen it." So just let me check it out. So he looked. At the very top up here, this part, he saw RL. Could barely make it out. He said, "There's a tattoo behind your ear. RL. You said, what happened to your parents?" "Well, my original parents, they were kind of old, and they passed away, and I went to the orphanage. And those were your real parents?" He said, "Well, I'm not quite sure. I didn't really look like them, and they were kind of old, so I don't know. And plus, my father said they could have kids, and he said that God had blessed them with me somehow. So I don't know about that. I don't know what he meant, but that's all I know." He said, his friend said, "You know what, Michael? I wondered if you could be the lost prince." Michael laughed and said, "Man, you're kidding me, man. I'm no lost prince. What are you talking about?" So anyway, Michael said, "Well, I have to go back up in that area in about 2 days. I'm going to go. I want you to come with me, just so the king can take a look at you, just to make sure that you're not his lost son." He said, "Check back with me. If I got time, I'll go, just to get away." I said, "Okay." So a couple days went by. Came by. Michael was free. "See, I'll go with you, just for hang out, stretch my legs." So he get to the palace. And the guard there, and you can't come in. You just can't come in, go to the palace because you want to. There's guards there. So the guard said, what do you guys want? He said, well, my friend here, I believe he might be the lost prince. The guard stood up, grabbed his sword, said, son, you don't play like that. You don't say stuff like that. The king will kill you for making fun of his son. He said, I'm not kidding. He has a blanket with RL on it. He has a tattoo behind his ears. And he don't know if his real parents were his real parents. So the guard says, wait here. He goes talk to the king. Goes into the palace, taps on the door. King says, enter. The guard comes in. The king says, what is it? Sir, there's someone outside said that he might be your lost son. King stood up, gazed at him. He said, why would they say this? He said he has this blanket. It says RL on it. And he said he had it all of his life. He said he has a tattoo behind his ear with RL on it. King stood up, kind of gazed at him. He said, bring him to me. So the king was a little worried and wondering, could this be a scam or something like that? He said, if it is, whoever it is, I'm going to kill him. So Michael, Bill comes in, a little afraid. And he's standing before the king. The king looks at Michael. And he said, well, how old are you? So I'm about 16, 17. And the king's mind is saying, wow, my son will be about 15, 16 years old. Or maybe 17. He's I'm getting old, so I don't remember as well. He said, where's this blanket that your friend said you have? He said, this is my blanket right here. My parents gave it to me. King looked at it. He said, no, that's the blanket of my son. Turn it over. Inside is inscribed RL in gold. This is my son's blanket. Where'd you get it? He said, I've always had this blanket. This is my blanket. King says, come here. Turn your head to the left. King grabbed his ear and did like this. Saw the tattoo RL. The king stood back. My son, you're my son. What happened? He said, I don't understand. I don't know. I don't understand. How am I your son? He said, my son was by the river bathing with the servants. The storm came up, took him down the river. Never to be seen again. I thought he was dead. I thought you were dead. He said, who found you? He said, my parents found me. When they were older, and they said that God blessed me with a son. Blessed them with a son. And so I assumed that they had me. But obviously, they probably found me by the river. So the king stood up and says, no, you're my son. My son is back again. So the king hugged him, called all the servants, said, celebration time. My lost son is here. And we're going to celebrate and thank the gods for him. Until next time, have a great day. Uncle B coming at you.